11 décembre, nous allons parler de 2 situations de la campagne Écrire ça libère, à savoir la situation des trois de l'aile Hiblu à Malte, en Europe, et aussi de la situation des militantes d'une marche des fiertés universitaires en Turquie. Donc, sans plus tarder, nous allons vous partager les liens également vers notre site internet amnesty.ca/marathon. Nous allons vous partager les liens pour que vous puissiez, tout au long de ce webinaire, écrire vos messages aux jeunes de l'aile Hiblu et aux militants et militantes des marches des fiertés universitaires en Turquie. Donc, sans plus tarder, nous avons l'extrême chance et plaisir de recevoir une invitée internationale, Maria Serrano. Donc, Maria est responsable senior des campagnes sur la migration du bureau régional d'Amnesty International au Royaume-Uni. Et donc, Maria va venir nous parler de la situation des trois de l'aile Hiblu à Malte et également plus généralement aussi des enjeux liés aux migrations entre le nord de l'Afrique et l'Europe. Donc, Maria, merci beaucoup d'être là. Maria va s'exprimer en anglais. Donc, vous allez pouvoir accéder à un service d'interprétation en direct en cliquant en bas de votre écran sur le petit icône interprétation. C'est une petite terre. Il vous suffit de sélectionner le canal français pour avoir la traduction. Donc, Maria, merci beaucoup. Puis, je vous laisse la parole et nous aurons un temps de questions et réponses après votre intervention.
Thank you, friends and colleagues in Amnesty Canada, and thank you to everyone joining this webinar. It's a great opportunity to be here and to invite people to take action and to celebrate the activism, and particularly this campaign as well, which is a very important campaign because it's a campaign about individuals in solidarity with other individuals. So I really want to encourage you all to take action, and I'm going to talk particularly about Hiblu 3, which involves 3 young boys that are accused of very, very serious charges in Malta just for opposing an unlawful return to torture in Libya. So I'm going to share a presentation because I am speaking in English and my presentation is in English. I hope that the presentation and the pictures will allow participants to follow, but I'm happy to respond to any questions or anything that may not be clear through the presentation. So I'm going to just going to share my screen, and yes, I hope it's going to work. Does it work? Yes. Okay, that's great.
Parfait, oui, on voit bien.
So, this case involves three young boys, teenagers at the time. They are coming from Guinea and from Ivory Coast. And as this image summarized very well, because they oppose torture and they help other refugees and migrants traveling with them on a boat, they are now facing and risking life in prison in Malta. And I'm going to tell you more about who they are, what happened to them, why they are in this situation, and what is the political game between Europe and Libya, and why they are in a way like the victims of this political game. And then to finalize, I'm gonna invite you to take action and to by giving you some ideas about what you can do for them. So these 3 young boys who are from Ivory Coast and from Guinea are now 21 years old, 16 and 18 years old. But when the events happened, they were teenagers. There were 2 minors, and the oldest one was 21 years old. And imagine, they left their country and they transited through Libya. In Libya, they went through awful experiences. 2 of them were imprisoned. were sold by militias. So they experienced detention and they were super scared. So in that context, they try to flee Libya. Libya is a country that is in conflict right now, is at war. And militias and private groups, but also like different factions, are fighting for power. And in this fight for power, refugees and migrants have become commodities. So different groups, smugglers, traffickers, what they do is to basically sell people, and they get money out of it. So the Hiblu three wanted to escape Libya, and they wanted to escape Libya because they dreamt about a better life in Europe. They had a lot of aspirations, and they are like other teenagers, really. When you talk to them, they talk about football, they love learning, they love school, they want to study, they want to work and help their families. So these are common things that we all want for us and for our families. And in particular, they are super enthusiastic about football and basketball, like they love Real Madrid, Liverpool, Manchester United, so all these football teams in Europe. And they love music as well. They love Bob Marley. So as you can see, they are normal people, normal teenagers. They are now in Malta, where they are living in some accommodation centers. And Malta, as you may know, is this tiny island in the middle of the central Mediterranean. And it's very close to Libya. So this means that migrants and refugees that are fleeing Libya frequently find themselves in distress at sea, and they need to be rescued, and they need to be brought to safety. What happened to them is that they, as I'm gonna show you, sorry, because yes. So I'm showing here in this map how Malta is very tiny compared to Sicily, which is the other island close to Italy, but also compared to Libya, Tripoli. You can see the capital of Libya. So the three of the Hiblu left Libya from a city called Garabuli, which is very close to Tripoli, as you can see in the map. And they left Libya by sea, and they used a very unseaworthy rubber boat. So these kind of boats are usually overcrowded, and they are not fit for navigation, unless so to undertake a very dangerous journey through the central Mediterranean Sea. So normally, as I said, these boats find themselves in distress. And this is what happened to the boat. They were traveling, they departed from Libya, and very soon they found themselves into trouble because the boat was sinking. But fortunately, there was a plane passing by, and also a merchant vessel was tasked with rescuing them. So there was this big vessel that I'm going to show you the picture, this big oil tanker that was nearby and went to the rescue. And when it went to the rescue, the people that were traveling in this rubber boat climbed up aboard the boat, and they were promised that they wouldn't be taken back to Libya, but they would be taken to safety in Europe. This was the promise that the crew made to everyone traveling on the rubber boat, which was about to sink. So time passed, people fell asleep, but the following day, very early in the morning, people realized that instead of being taken to safety, actually this boat, this vessel, was very close to the Libyan coastline. So people panicked. People were really scared to be taken back to Libya, and they started protesting. They complained. There were a lot of children and women traveling as well. So everyone panicked. And at that time, the crew started considering what is happening to these people, what can we do to avoid the panic and to avoid the situation. And that's when the three teenagers intervened, because they speak English. They are the ones that speak English and could communicate with the crew. So when they were asked, what can we do? The younger one said to the chief officer of the boat, don't take anyone back to Libya. Take us to safety. We cannot go back to Libya. Libya is hell. So I'm going to show you here one of the quotes of the younger boy, who also tells how people started crying and shouting because people were really scared about going back to Libya. And as we have heard from many others, Libya is hell for refugees and migrants, and people prefer to die than being taken back to detention, to rape, to torture in Libya. And here the boy tells you how people are detained, how women are raped, and how people are extorted for money. They are detained and they are forced to call their families to get the money to be released. So this was the situation. And at that point, the chief officer decided to turn around and to head towards Malta. And the teenagers didn't know even where Malta was. They were thinking about Europe, and the place they could identify was Italy, but not Malta. Malta wasn't in their mind. They didn't know even that Malta was part of Europe. But before they arrived in Malta, the chief officer of the boat communicated with Maltese authorities. And what he said to Maltese authorities is that the boat had been seized by the migrants. And this information was also shared by Maltese authorities with the media. So the media started reporting that there was a group of migrants and refugees who had hijacked a boat. And there was also the former Minister of Interior, Matteo Salvini, who is very well known because he's not a friend of refugees and migrants. On the contrary, he has been advocating for anti-migrant measures. Matteo Salvini was starting a campaign on social media depicting the people that were seeking safety, basically, and telling that these were pirates. So as you can see, people were really distorting the story and disregarding the dangers. These people were exposed in the middle of the sea. So Maltese authorities decided to storm the boat before the boat could dock. And you can see here the picture of Malta, of the harbor, but also there is a picture of the armed forces of Malta that stormed the boat. So you can see that the weapons, because they thought that basically there was a dangerous situation there. But actually, there weren't weapons. They found that there wasn't anyone injured. There wasn't any damage to the boat, and they found people scared and people that have survived a shipwreck. However, the three of the Hiblu three were arrested, and were arrested because they were traveling with the captain. The captain had invited them to go with him in the cabin to check the screen, to check that he was fulfilling the promise of taking them to safety. So this is what happened to them. They were arrested upon their arrival in Malta, and they were accused of very, very serious charges that could carry life sentences. The question is, why did this happen? I mean, just to clarify that they were arrested and transferred to an adult prison, even if 2 of them were minors. And there were protests and statements by the UN as well, because they weren't treated as children. They couldn't choose a lawyer of their choice at the beginning and translators. So, you know, the guarantees that normally would be in place for children weren't even respected. And when my colleagues also interviewed them, they were in detention, they were in jail, and the 2 minors were terrified and they didn't understand what had happened to them. So I want to go now and to move the conversation not only to the case, but why this happened, and you know, what are the reasons and the responsibilities and the policies that had led to this. Maybe for people, it would be good to know that the European Union has engaged in trying to shut down any migration route and to basically seal the borders. And to do that, the European Union has adopted deals with other countries like Turkey, like Libya, regardless of the human rights records of these countries. So in a way, the European Union has hired gatekeepers to control Europe's borders. And one of the terrible deals that the European Union has stuck has been this deal with Libya. So this deal with Libya involves training and empowering the Libyan Coast Guard to, as the European Union would say, rescue migrants and refugees at sea. In reality, these are not rescues. These are interceptions at sea. And the intention is basically to stop boats from arriving to Europe. So instead of having European boats rescuing people, what the EU is doing is basically training and giving equipment to the Libyan Coast Guard, for the Libyan Coast Guard to stop the boats and return people to detention. Another thing that the European states have done is to really let people drown at sea. They have withdrawn all the boats, so they are not proactively rescuing people. And Malta and Italy have also closed their ports. So under the pretext of COVID and the pandemic, they decided that the countries needed to close the ports. And in particular, Malta has delayed rescues, has detained rescued people on ferry boats for weeks. And Malta has also pushed people back to Libya, including by hiring private companies and vessels to do that, which is unlawful, is illegal. And the last thing that European authorities are doing is criminalizing solidarity and criminalizing NGOs. So not only countries are abdicating from the responsibilities to rescue, they are also preventing others from rescuing people in distress at sea. They are putting all obstacles to NGOs seizing their boats, opening investigations, pressing criminal charges against people that are only saving lives. So we have also a problem with the criminalization of solidarity in Europe. And that's why all these factors combined, all these policies combined, result in an impossible situation for captains of private vessels who need to rescue people at sea, because this is their obligation under maritime law. But at the same time, they don't have any place to disembark them. They cannot disembark people in Libya because it's not safe, but ports are closed in Europe. So all that happened to Hiblu 3 needs to be understood in this context, in this context in which, that has been produced by Europe's political decisions. And I now want to explain a little bit more about the cycle of abuses in Libya and why Libya is not safe, why Hiblu 3 were terrified about the idea and the prospect of being returned to Libya, and why the fellow travelers, the people that traveled on the same boat, preferred to die before being sent back to Libya. So what we have in Libya is what we call a cycle of abuses. So it's a cycle and it's very difficult to get out of it. So people are intercepted by the Libyan Coast Guard when they try to flee the country. And the Libyan Coast Guard is sponsored, has equipment and boats that is receiving from the European Union. When people are intercepted at sea, they are returned to Libya, and then they are sent back to detention. And people can end up in official detention centers that are controlled nominally by Libyan authorities. However, there is very little access by international organizations. This is arbitrary detention, so there are no grounds for detention. Everyone is detained. It doesn't matter if you are a child or if you are a pregnant woman, everyone is detained. And the detention is not limited in time, so people can be detained for a year. And people in detention live in very inadequate conditions. Some people have died in detention centers because they don't have access to medical care, for instance. But more important, well, not more important, but other abuses that happened in detention centers are related to the fact that people are extorted in detention centers for a ransom. So they are tortured and they need to get money to be released from the detention centers. And for women, being in detention means that probably they will be raped by the guards. So it's really awful. And there is very little exit of this situation. And in addition to detention, if people manage to get out of detention, they are at risk of being killed by militias, because if you are a Black sub-Saharan migrant or asylum seeker or refugee in Libya, this means that you are a target for the militias. The last thing that we have documented as well is that people sometimes disappeared. There are enforced disappearances in Libya. We have documented this year. So this means that people can't end up in centers of captivity that are controlled by criminal gangs, by militias. So they went missing, and we fear that they might have died or they might have been killed. So if people manage to get out of detention and be released, they try to flee Libya and take the sea route. But again, they are intercepted by the Libyan Coast Guard. So we have seen many refugees and migrants, we have interviewed them, and many people have repeated experiences of being stopped and taken back by the Libyan Coast Guard. So people try to escape several times. This is what is happening in Libya, and that's why Libya is not safe for refugees and migrants. And the UN is reiterating this call to all states: no one should be returned to Libya. Despite this call and despite all this evidence, the European Union is continuing cooperating with Libyan authorities, and that's why that's why the European Union is complicit in these abuses. So if we move to the case of Hiblu 3, I think it's important to say also that the lawyer considers that Malta is using these 3 young boys as an example, because Malta wants to send the message that refugees and migrants are not welcome in Malta, and they are being used as scapegoats, and this is unfair. The charges are not based on any evidence. No harm has been proven. No person has been injured. So there is so far no evidence to really back the very, very serious charges, and the 3 teenagers don't understand what is happening. So they have been waiting for very long to get justice, but unfortunately things are not moving in Malta. The process is taking too long. The investigation hasn't been closed, and more importantly, there are serious flaws in the investigation. So, for instance, the passengers that were traveling with them, the other refugees and migrants, haven't been summoned to testify or to be interviewed by the police. So the question is, how is that possible? They are key witnesses, and they could probably testify in their favor. However, the police has not collected any evidence. And this also shows that the justice system in Malta, which is also very influenced by the political establishment, has a lot of issues, a lot of problems. So in our analysis, we have also seen that the judicial system in Malta is very very harsh with those who are in a vulnerable position, but however, the justice system is very lenient with the political elite, and there are a lot of corruption scandals as well. I want to, before concluding, I want to really go back to what the boys have told us as well. When they are trying to understand the situation, it's impossible for them because they continue saying that, for instance, one of them said, "We did nothing wrong. We just tried to help." And this is corroborated by the testimonies of the survivors who feel the other people traveling with them also feel immensely grateful to these 3 for being able to translate, to contain the situation, and to really suggest the captain and the crew to take them to Malta instead of being taken to hell in Libya. Another one told us that, that he saved the lives of many people by translating, by coming on the situation. He saved the lives of many people. There were women and children, and for this, he feels really proud. So I think that, I hope that this will be considerations that will be, will be properly assessed in the course of the investigation. Amnesty is calling for the charges to be dropped because first, because there is no evidence. Second, because we also consider that authorities are not considering the distress situation, the dangers they would have faced in Libya. They would have been killed or detained or tortured, and no one should be punished for refusing to go back to torture in Libya. So my presentation ends here, but I wanted to show you as well, if we have time, a video that we produced some time ago. And in this video, you can see how the Libyan Coast Guard behaves when there is a situation of distress at sea. It's a video that where we documented, the dangers refugees and migrants were exposed to. So I think that we produced this in 2018, but things have gotten even worse in Libya. With the conflict and the COVID situation for refugees and migrants. So I'm going to try to share it. Just give me a second and I will share my screen and the video. If I can. Let me see, sorry. I'm just trying to. I hope you could see the video. I hope you could see it. But as you can see, you can see, sorry. Sorry, because I just need to, yeah. So, so the point I would like to make to finalize this presentation is that refugees and migrants are at risk in Libya, are at risk at sea, and then they are criminalized when they try to seek safety in Europe. I think that Europe should do much better because what we have is not a crisis, a refugee or migration crisis, it's a crisis of protection and solidarity. And Hiblu 3 are just the victims and scapegoats in this political game. Something that is really important for them as well, they relate very much to the Black Lives Matter movement, because they are experiencing this discrimination. They have experienced discrimination in Libya. They are experiencing discrimination when Europe is refusing to rescue people because they are Black and because they are migrants. And then when they arrive in Malta, there is a lot of discrimination and racism as well. So, if Black Lives Matter, they also think that they should matter as well. So for them, the amnesty campaign is important because it shows that, people care about them. One of the things that the 18-year-old taught us is that no one cares, and he feels neglected. So your letters of support, your letters to the Attorney General in Malta, but also your letters of solidarity really matter to them. And Malta is a tiny country, so like flooding authorities with letters will be super meaningful. raising awareness about the case will be very, very meaningful, because, you know, external pressure will help to draw attention to the case and to, you know, show Maltese authorities that we are watching and we care about these three boys, and we want justice for them as well. So I invite you to take action, to express solidarity, and to continue engaging in the Right for Rights campaign. And I think that I can leave it here, because maybe I'm just taking too much time, and I would gladly respond to any question or engage in any debate, or if people are more interested in knowing more about the specifics of refugees and migrants in Europe, I would be very happy to share more.
Merci beaucoup, Maria, pour cette présentation fort enrichissante, puis assez troublante aussi. C'est une question, la situation de la migration dans la Méditerranée, est assez troublant. Puis on est vraiment chanceux de pouvoir échanger avec vous, parce que d'ici et du Canada, des fois, on n'entend pas beaucoup parler de ces situations-là dans les médias. Donc, c'est bien de pouvoir avoir aussi un portrait de ce qui se passe en Libye et de comment sont traités les migrants et les réfugiés. Est-ce qu'il y aurait des questions dans le public? Vous pouvez lever la main. Vous avez un petit icône à côté de votre nom dans participation, une petite main. Vous pouvez la lever pour prendre la parole directement ou écrire dans le questions et réponses qui se trouve en bas de votre écran. Alors, pour laisser le temps aux participants de peut-être noter leurs questions, moi j'avais une question concernant le cas des trois jeunes. Vous avez mentionné qu'ils étaient en ce moment hébergés dans différents centres ou appartements à Malte, mais est-ce qu'ils ont accès quand même à d'autres services? Est-ce qu'ils peuvent faire des études? Est-ce qu'ils ont accès à des soins de santé? Est-ce qu'ils ont accès à des services administratifs?
Thank you for the question. So so they live in three different locations. At the beginning, the two minors were together in a center for minors, but the 18 years old has been recently moved because he cannot be in the accommodation for children. However, they are not detained, but they have to report to the police every day, which means that they need to go to the police station very early in the morning and then in the afternoon or evening. And this means that this cuts, you know, their normal life. So this is very annoying for them. They are trying to learn and to improve their English, to learn, you know, one of them loves computer. The other one is doing a trainship as well. So they are trying to learn. Obviously, the services sometimes are not great. So they can access healthcare, but most of the time, if they need something, a social worker needs to accompany them. However, the system is not great because, you know, there is one social worker for a lot of children, for instance, which means that, you know, the social worker cannot allocate the time enough that is needed for them. However, there are other organizations and support groups that are trying to help them, and also the lawyer who is very, very committed. So, you know, like whenever a need arises, we try among the different organizations and support groups to see how we can accompany them and how we can provide the support they need.
Merci. Et puis, je me demandais également si ils sont, une fois que leur procès fini, qu'ils soient déclarés innocents ou coupables, est-ce que éventuellement ils auront un risque d'être renvoyés dans leur pays ou en Libye?
Yes, so depending on the outcome of the trial, yes, there is this possibility of being returned to their countries of origin. I mean, I doubt that they will be returned to Libya, because, I mean, these returns to Libya happen when people are in the middle of the sea, but it would be too much to apprehend people from, you know, in Malta and then fly them back to Libya. But the thing as well is that their asylum application is pending until the process, the judicial process, finishes. So, you know, their status is very uncertain. And that's also like a problem because it generates a lot of uncertainty. But everything is possible, and depending on the seriousness of the charges, the final charges, and what is going to happen with the trial, yes, there is this possibility as well.
Merci. Nous avons une question d'une participante dans le questions et réponses qui dit cette entente entre l'Union européenne et la Libye est une honte. Est-ce qu'il y a des mouvements en Europe qui protestent contre cette entente afin d'y mettre fin?
So yes, how it happened, like it started by Italian authorities. They signed an agreement with Libya. So there are a lot of, a few journalists in Italy that are reporting, you know, the violations, the complicity. I mean, in the video you could see that one of the boat. The boat is a very good boat that was given by Italian authorities to Libyan authorities, and that's what enables Libyan authorities to intercept people. So there are a lot of movements, like journalists reporting these and protesting against this as well. But unfortunately, like politicians in Europe, they are not listening. They know the abuses that happen in Libya in a systematic and routine way. There are so many reports from the UN, from MSF, from many organizations. They are choosing to ignore these reports. So that's why we are trying, together with other organizations, we have tried to go to court. In Europe, we have the European Court of Human Rights. And we, as Amnesty, are supporting one of the cases that was brought by a network of academics, precisely, you know, about this incident at sea that, you know, that the video exposes. However, normally, you know, these cases take years, and also there is a very legal problem with the jurisdiction. This is this complex idea that, you know, states are responsible for things that are happening in the European soil, but then Libya is another country. So how do you prove that actually European leaders are responsible? So there are complex, a lot of complex issues in this case, but we will see if in 2021 we get some justice as well. And we will keep on campaigning and denouncing this deal because it is cruel, and European governments have decided to ignore these abuses.
Merci. Est-ce qu'il y a d'autres questions? Mais moi, j'en ai une autre, s'il n'y a pas de problème. S'il n'y a pas de problème pour vous, Maria. Concernant justement les gens, la population de l'île de Malte, on l'a vu dans les dernières années, l'arrivée massive de migrants et réfugiés, que ce soit en Italie, en Grèce ou sur d'autres plages des côtes européennes, a entraîné, bon, évidemment, la création de camps et différents problèmes liés à la salubrité ou liés aux conditions de vie de ces personnes dans des camps de réfugiés. Est-ce que la population, quelle est la réaction de la population à Malte vis-à-vis de la situation en général? Est-ce que le cas de ces 3 jeunes, par exemple, a été médiatisé? Est-ce qu'il y a du soutien de la population?
So there are different aspects here. One is that, you know, the case of Hiblu 3 was reported in a very twisted way by the media at the beginning, which created a very negative atmosphere about, and a lot of fear about, you know, imagine like migrants and refugees like hijacking boats. So all these headlines created a very hostile environment, which also, adds, it's coupled with the fact that Malta is receiving more people by sea because, it's closer to Libya. So there is a sense that Malta is tiny and the population feels that there are too many refugees and migrants. So, there is some support, but the attitude of the general population is is an attitude of fear, of maybe, maybe people could be sympathetic, but at the same time, they have questions about integration, or they have questions about why the rest of European countries are not showing solidarity. And this is actually one of the main problems, that whenever refugees and migrants arrive to the first countries like Italy, Greece, Spain, or Malta, instead of showing solidarity and basically distributing refugees, asylum seekers, and migrants between different European countries, the first countries of entry are the ones that have the responsibility to assist and protect. And this creates imbalances. So to summarize, the European asylum system and rules, which are very unfair for the first countries, need to be fixed. And until that happens, like people in Italy, in Malta, in Greece, will feel that, may feel sympathetic, but they will feel that the rest of the countries are not helping. And also in Greece, we have seen that there was a lot of solidarity in 2015, but there is an increasing level of hostility by the government. There is a climate of suspicion. The government is very hostile, even in the comments, like suggesting that, NGOs supporting refugees and migrants are putting people in danger and encouraging them to travel by boat and risking their lives, which is not the case at all. But, this way of manufacturing like hatred and fear is also a political tool that has, helped some governments to win elections. So, it's a political instrumentalization of fear, let's say.
Merci pour ce complément d'information, c'est troublant. C'est vraiment troublant. J'ai un commentaire dans le questions et réponses d'une participante qui dit « Nous avons vu en Grèce et à Malte les questions sur le manque de solidarité du reste de l'Europe. En fait, tous ces pays, et pas juste les pays européens, devraient être concernés. Le Canada fait très peu pour accueillir des migrants. Donc, il est aussi inévitable que le flot migratoire s'accroisse. Comment envisager une prise de conscience? Comment garder espoir? Comment peut-on parler aux gens autour de nous pour démystifier un peu la question des réfugiés et des migrants?
Yes, this is a very interesting question. I think that, refugees and migrants globally is a responsibility for all, countries. And there are countries, obviously, that can do more than others because they have more resources and they can offer more places, for instance, to resettle people. So Canada is one of these countries as well. So I know that you have this program of community sponsorship that is great. Like people can actually sponsor like refugee families or people that can go to Canada. And I think it's a great, initiative and idea and a policy because it involves all the communities. So it doesn't only offer, a pathway to protection, it also involves the whole community in the welcoming. So this is how, attitudes are changed. And I think that there are different pilot projects in Europe about community sponsorship. So this is one of the main things that I think it has a long-term impact. There is resettlement as well. But there is also, a question about why people have these fears and what we can do to address them. because, I mean, we cannot disregard the fears or the feelings that people may have. We need to engage in conversations and understand that. But also, I think it's a matter of creating common spaces where people can meet each other and understand that we are neighbors, we live together. And to maintain, hope, when I see very bleak things happening. I remember one of the experts that once told me, look, like the older generation is very scared right now. But in 10 years, because the younger generation, is getting used to live in a world where people move, where we care about the planet, where we are all together, things may change. They will change. So I always remember this because, like it's in our power also to engage, to share, to really engage in conversations and to share the space and to raise awareness. Sometimes, there are difficult conversations to have, but I think it's about trying.
Oui, tout à fait. Je suis tout à fait d'accord avec vous pour dire qu'il faut laisser la parole aussi aux gens qui ont des histoires à raconter pour un peu aussi montrer quelle est la réalité des parcours, parce qu'il n'y a pas qu'un seul parcours, il y a des centaines de parcours et de laisser les gens s'exprimer sur pourquoi ils ont dû quitter leur pays parce qu'on le sait, être réfugié, ça n'est pas un choix. Donc, merci beaucoup, Maria. C'est un sujet qui est fascinant. Et malheureusement, on arrive à la fin de votre conférence et il va falloir qu'on conclue maintenant. Est-ce qu'un dernier mot de la fin de la part de nos participants? Non, ça n'a pas l'air. Donc, Maria, merci beaucoup d'avoir été parmi nous aujourd'hui et pour cette présentation très claire des enjeux à la fois de droits humains concernant la question des migrations, mais aussi des enjeux politiques, parce que c'est aussi très, très important. Cet aspect-là est aussi très, très important. Et nous avons dans le questions et réponses nos participants qui vous remercient chaleureusement pour votre présentation. Nous vous souhaitons une bonne continuation. Et bon courage, il y a beaucoup de travail sur ces enjeux-là dans le monde, donc bon courage. Et puis nous sommes Amnesty, puis les militantes et les militants d'Amnesty derrière vous pour vous soutenir dans votre travail.
Merci beaucoup à tous. Take action, that's very important. Wherever the action is, yes, take action.
Tout à fait. Merci. Donc, tout à fait. Comme le dit Maria, vous pouvez écrire aux jeunes des trois de la Hiblu en vous connectant sur notre site internet amnesty.ca/marathon. La deuxième situation qu'on voulait vous présenter aujourd'hui, c'est la situation des militantes et des militants des marches de la fierté en Turquie. Donc, pour vous présenter cette situation et qu'est-ce qui se passe, nous avons une petite vidéo. Merci Camille pour la vidéo. Donc, vous avez pu voir en une petite minute la situation auquel font face Melike et Özgür en Turquie, donc à savoir depuis plusieurs années, ces deux étudiants et d'autres étudiants avaient l'habitude d'organiser des marches des fiertés. Puis l'an passé, l'université a interdit l'organisation de cette marche et ont appelé la police parce que les étudiants avaient organisé un sit-in. Donc, la police a arrêté Melike et Ozgur, que vous voyez sur l'image ici, et d'autres étudiants, et ils sont en attente de leur procès. En fait, leur procès devait se tenir, nous les avions invités à participer aujourd'hui, à venir vous parler en direct. Malheureusement, leur procès devait avoir lieu hier, le 10 décembre, la journée internationale des droits humains, ce qui est un peu ironique. Et finalement, leur procès a été reporté. Il a été reporté en avril 2021. Donc, Amnesty, bien sûr, nous continuons à suivre la situation de Melike Ozgur et des autres étudiants en Turquie de très près, sachant qu'en Turquie, l'homosexualité n'est pas illégale, mais les militantes et militants ou les personnes des communautés LGBTI font régulièrement l'objet de discrimination, de persécution. Donc nous suivons cette situation de très près, mais nous vous invitons quand même dès maintenant à écrire à Melike et Ozgur en suivant le lien que Camille va vous partager dans le chat si ça n'est pas déjà fait. Donc voilà, nous n'avons pas d'intervention particulière, mais on tenait quand même à vous présenter le cas de Melike et Ozgur afin que vous puissiez passer à l'action dès aujourd'hui. Bien évidemment, en suivant notre site internet amnesty.ca/marathon, comme vous pouvez le voir sur la diapositive en ce moment, vous allez avoir accès aux 10 personnes et aux 10 cas de la campagne Écrire ça libère 2020. Donc, vous allez pouvoir écrire à toutes les personnes qui sont en danger ou qui ont besoin de votre soutien cette année. Et bien évidemment, nous vous invitons à partager autour de vous, à inviter vos proches, vos familles, vos collègues à écrire aussi leur message de solidarité. La campagne se termine le 31 janvier, donc vous avez le temps d'écrire d'ici la fin de la campagne. Ça va être, nous allons maintenant clôturer ce webinaire aujourd'hui, mais nous vous invitons, demain, il y aura le dernier webinaire, donc samedi 12 décembre à midi, et nous allons parler notamment des cas de Jani Silva en Colombie et d'Idriss Katak au Pakistan, et nous aurons la chance de recevoir en direct pour une conférence témoignage la fille d'Idriss Katak, Talia, qui viendra vous parler de l'histoire de son père et de son combat à elle, de sa lutte pour le faire libérer. Donc, ne manquez pas le webinaire de demain parce que ça promet d'être très, très enrichissant. Donc, nous vous souhaitons une très bonne journée et nous vous disons donc, à demain. Merci, au revoir.